Hi, welcome to genXup. I'm your host, Grant Porter, and this is the first podcast for genXup and myself. So please bear with me if I'm a little rough. It's a little tougher than you might imagine to look into a camera and try to talk to people. With that aside, I just wanted to let you know why I am doing genXup. It came to me a couple of years ago. It was one of those ideas that first originated as something to work on for entrepreneurs, tech startups, building teams, and gaining traction and success. That's the wheelhouse that I live in and work in. And as I thought about this idea and have a lot of friends who are in my age group, which Gen Xers, we are from turning 58 in 2023 to 43. So born 1980 through 1965. We're at a different stage than maybe our younger millennial and Z generations, and some of the motivational podcasts which I listen to, which talk about starting families and getting careers. Most of us are either in the thick of that or we're through it. We're empty nesters and we're getting ready to figure out what comes next in our lives. And what's happened for many of us is we have been drifting, for some, and others very successfully driven. If you're successfully driven and have created a great life, there's just more room to go up. If you happen to find yourself with this podcast right now in your life and you're personally going through a crisis or a big change in your life, maybe there are things that you can explore here with me that will get you through it and get you to be the most authentic self that you're meant to be. So really, who are Gen Xers? You know, we were raised at a really feral time and had a lot of freedom as kids, not many boundaries. Essentially, come home when the lights came on the street, or you heard the cowbell or the whistle. Besides that, we had a lot of freedom and we had a lot of technology that changed during our era. And if you are a TikToker, you've probably heard an audio clip that really kind of sums up Gen Xers. And I'm going to go ahead and just lay that down here for those of you who haven't, and then I'll be right back.
Let's talk a little bit about Generation X, the generation so terrifying they couldn't even give it a fucking name. So Gen Xers were raised in a very interesting period of time. They were raised by baby boomers, so they knew a very older and maybe kind of feral way to exist and live their life. But then they were also old enough, so when the internet and a lot of new technology started coming out, they also knew a lot more. So they had this kind of ability to cherry pick the best traits of baby boomers and millennials, which makes them some of the most dangerous fucking people in the world. Most of the Gen Xers I knew either went to the military, went to rehab, or went to jail. That means the ones that are left are fucking survivors. So for as many changes in music and style and culture that you think you've been through, in the last 50 years, they've been through the most. Also, mental illness wasn't trendy back then. So any kind of mental illness that they had, they usually didn't get any treatment for it. So they had to learn how to cope with it themselves. Medications weren't as delicate or as effective back then. And that leaves you with some very fucking interesting people. Get yourself a Gen X friend, but they'll probably just tell you to fuck off.
So yeah, that's kind of Gen X in a nutshell. Now, I do know that most of my friends actually finished school, had careers, raised families, and created lives that were exceptional or full of lots of change. I do have some friends, though, that did end up doing a stint in jail or rehab, but for the most part, everybody's been exceptionally cool. However, I don't think if you came up to me and said you wanted to be my friend, I'd tell you to fuck off. That's not how I roll, and probably how most of you don't roll either. So here we are. We're starting a journey. It's 2023, if you can believe it. I'm in very first year generation Gen X, so I guess you could call me a grandpa Xer. And I think some of the younger Xers, you don't know what's coming. As soon as you get the ARP card in the mail that invites you to join the Retired Persons Association or whatever the fuck it's called to get big discounts for merchants, it's like a wake up that you are no longer the 30-something-year-olds you have in your head. So as we explore through the different pods, I'm going to really focus on, first, for the new year, creating a vision. For a lot of my tech startups, that's one of the fundamental things that I work on with them is to create their vision of what they want to have in their life in 5 years, 3 years, 1 year. And for us, I think it probably makes sense to start with three and then work back from there. We're going to work on changing habits, getting through some of the traumas or traumatic experiences that we have and the traumas we carry with it. Uh, Personally, I have some very dear friends who, in the recent years, have lost children. I know way too many friends that have gone through rough divorces and relationships that didn't work out after divorces, and trying to figure it all out and be our most energetic, authentic selves moving forward is, I think, on a lot of our minds, and how we get there, the habits, the resources that we implement for ourselves, and how we grow as individuals to really not have regrets when we get to the next chapter. As we know, life's like a roll of toilet paper. You know, once you get halfway through it, it goes really quick, and we're halfway through it, if not a little bit more. So the runway is getting shorter. And if you have this inkling in the back of your head or in your heart that you to date have lived either a mediocre, an exceptional, or somewhat adrift life, wherever you're at, you can only get better. And so if you want to go on the journey with me and take this trip, I'd welcome you aboard. Um, I am going to create a Facebook community. So if there are viewers in the audience that want to engage with each other, I know that there's going to be opportunities as we discuss building through your vision and using that instead of your resolutions, which, as we know, most people drop out by February on those. Uh, getting a community together and having some accountability partners can really help in your long-term success and growth and change. So that's pretty much the introduction for now. Please stay tuned to upcoming episodes. My goal is to get one out every day of the week. I did not realize how difficult it is to look into a camera and talk. Uh, I tried doing it with a script, and that was terrible. And I also have a bunch of little cue cards that I can't seem to look down and read. So I'm just winging it. And I think this podcast is going to be a big winging it. As the audience grows, I definitely want to bring on guests, which will be a lot more fun as far as the engagement goes, both for myself and probably for you as a viewer. But they're going to hopefully share things that just are outside of my wheelhouse that we may all be going through, ranging from parents who need care. That is going to be something for some of us, to others of us who have had big career changes or impacts from COVID, or you have some personal goals that you really want to achieve that are outside your comfort zone. I can relate to that at this particular moment. So as we grow together, I think it's going to be a fun ride. My goal is to stick with this solidly for at least a year. Uh, there is no money in it for me, and it's taken a ton of work to not only figure out the tools, the video editing, and then creating the social media pages and everything else. So if you're inspired to do so, I would greatly appreciate it if you went to genxup.com, checked us out, and went to some of the social media stations or channels rather, and and liked us, commented, and also find us on a variety of podcasts from Spotify to Apple and Alexa and whatever other ones that I end up getting populated on. And the more we like, share, and comment, the more likely that new people will find the podcast, and we will really create a Gen X Up community, which would be friggin' awesome. So until the next episode, have a great night. And I actually wrote a little thing that I always want to close with, and I want to read this one. Uh, uh, the past is done. The future is in our imagination. So let's be excellent to each other and kick some ass in the now. Now, I'm quite certain the more I repeat that, the better I'll do. So thanks for sticking with me. And if you have so far, take care. Bye.